What if the next world war wasn't decided over years, or even months, but in just 2 days? Imagine a conflict where the future of global power hinges not on slow attrition, but on lightning speed, where the control of one ocean decides the fate of economies, supply chains, and nations, and where hesitation is the difference between dominance and disaster. This is not a fantasy. This is the nightmare military planners have been gaming out for decades. A clash between the United States and China in the Pacific, a war that, if it comes, could be decided in just 48 hours. The stage is the Pacific Ocean, the world's largest arena, the beating heart of global trade. Whoever commands these waters controls the arteries of the global economy: oil tankers from the Middle East, container ships from Asia, and, most critically, the semiconductors that power every phone, computer, car, and weapon system on Earth. For China, this ocean represents opportunity, a path to superpower status, cemented by control of Taiwan. For America, it is survival. To lose the Pacific would mean the collapse of its alliances, the end of its global leadership, and a world order rewritten under Beijing's terms. Now, picture the moment of ignition. Satellite images appear before the U.S. president. Nearly 130 Chinese warships, stretching across the South China Sea, moving in perfect formation. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, amphibious assault ships, the largest deployment since World War II. Their course is unmistakable: Taiwan. And this is only the first wave. Behind them, 200 landing craft, carrying an estimated 50,000 Marines, surge forward. Along the Chinese coast, missile batteries come online. Beneath the waves, nuclear submarines take position. In the skies, stealth aircraft and long-range bombers prepare to strike. The world holds its breath. For Taiwan, intelligence estimates are grim: 72 hours. That's the time analysts predict the island can resist before being overwhelmed. Its military is professional, disciplined, and motivated. But against this sheer avalanche of firepower, courage alone is not enough. So the question shifts westward: how will America respond? For decades, Washington's policy on Taiwan was one of a strategic ambiguity, never promising direct defense, never ruling it out. But by 2027, that ambiguity has vanished. Taiwan is not just a partner. It is the beating heart of the global semiconductor industry. More than 60% of the world's chips, and over 90% of the advanced ones, are made here. Lose Taiwan, and the world doesn't just stumble, it crashes back into the digital stone age. Every smartphone, every military drone, every supercomputer, all of it would stop. The global economy would collapse, supply chains would unravel, and China would hold the most powerful nations hostage. The stakes are no longer about one island. They are about civilization's most critical resource. The American president knows this. Which is why, the moment the Chinese fleet sets sail, a different kind of machine awakens: the U.S. Pacific Command. A machine designed for speed, precision, and overwhelming force. At Pearl Harbor, Admiral Stephen Kohler watches as encrypted orders cascade across the Pacific. Within minutes, American aircraft carriers, the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Nimitz, surge to full power. Their nuclear reactors churn the ocean white as air wings prepare for round-the-clock operations. Submarines vanish beneath the waves, their missions sealed in silence. At Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, B-2 Spirit bombers are armed with weapons so secret they don't officially exist. The Pacific, in a heartbeat, begins to fill with steel. This is the doctrine of speed. The U.S. knows it cannot wait, cannot hesitate. To let China land its Marines on Taiwan would be to fight on Beijing's terms, a bloody, grinding battle that risks dragging on for years. Instead, Washington's plan is to lock down the Pacific in 48 hours, to choke China's fleet before it can even reach Taiwan's shores. And so begins one of the most dangerous operations in modern history: the Allied response. By 4:30 a.m. Washington time, phones ring across the Pacific. In Tokyo, the Japanese Prime Minister leaves a dinner mid-sentence to take a secure call that will redefine his nation's future. In Seoul, in Canberra, in Manila, leaders are awakened by messages of urgency: America is moving. Are you with us? The responses vary in tone, but not in substance. Yes, whatever America needs, America gets. This is alliance politics stripped bare. Decades of treaties, handshakes, and promises are instantly converted into steel and logistics. Ports open, bases are offered, satellites are shared. In hours, America's network of allies transforms into something China fears most: a unified war machine stretching across 3 continents. At Japan's Yokosuka Naval Base, American and Japanese officers sit shoulder to shoulder, their coordination so seamless it looks rehearsed. Because it has been rehearsed countless times in war games now made real. Australia's Pine Gap Intelligence Station swings into full wartime operations, its satellites tracking every radar ping, every heat signature, every whispered transmission. South Korea's ports fill with destroyers. Container ships secretly carrying fuel, ammunition, and spare parts set sail under escort. The machine is alive. The digital war. But this war will not be fought only with steel. At 8 a.m. Eastern Time, the U.S. Cyber Command unleashes a silent storm. Chinese satellites lose their uplinks. Radar systems malfunction. Communications fragment. To Chinese commanders, it looks like chaos. To American cyber specialists, it looks like design. In orbit, U.S. Space Force assets quietly reposition, jamming Chinese surveillance while sharpening American eyes. Global Hawk drones launch from Guam, mapping every Chinese vessel with surgical precision. Airborne command centers stitch live feeds from across the Pacific into a single, pulsing digital battlefield. For the first time in history, a great war expands fully into cyberspace and orbit. The fog of war thickens, but only for one side. The first 24 hours. By the 24-hour mark, the Pacific has changed beyond recognition. U.S. submarines prowl the choke points, the Strait of Malacca, the South China Sea, the Philippine waters. Destroyer squadrons form an invisible shield stretching from Japan to the equator. Every major shipping lane is now under American surveillance or control. Meanwhile, U.S. Marines storm tiny islands along the Ryukyu chain, Yonaguni, Ishigaki, Miyako. Populations in the thousands suddenly find themselves living on the front lines of world history. Prefabricated towers rise, missile batteries deploy, radar dishes spin. What were once quiet tourist outposts now become launch pads for fighter jets and missile strikes. And then, in the skies, the Raptors arrive. F-22 stealth fighters patrol the edges of Chinese airspace, unseen but lethal. F-35s launch from bases across Japan and Australia. Every aircraft is another reminder to Beijing: the Pacific is no longer open water. It is contested, and the contest is not going China's way. The symbolism is staggering. 80 years ago, these islands saw American, Japanese, and Chinese forces locked in brutal combat. Now, they host a new alliance, this time facing Beijing itself. History has circled back with sharper teeth. At the 36-hour mark, America raises the stakes again. B-2 bombers streak across the Pacific night, invisible to radar, armed with ordnance designed to cripple infrastructure. Radar stations on Woody Island vanish in fire. Communication towers on Fiery Cross Reef collapse. Subi Reef's runway sprouts craters too deep to repair. By now, the Chinese fleet faces a nightmare of arithmetic. Against their 127 ships stand 3 American carrier strike groups, nearly 50 submarines, and allied air bases spread across half a dozen nations. Every simulation the Chinese computers run points to the same conclusion: tactical defeat, strategic humiliation. And so, at hour 42, something unprecedented happens. The Chinese fleet stops. 200 miles from Taiwan, the largest armada since World War II freezes in place, neither advancing nor retreating. In Beijing, panic ripples through the Central Military Commission. They had prepared for combat. They had not prepared for paralysis. Casualty projections spill across President Xi's desk. They make the Korean War look like a border skirmish. Economic advisors whisper darker truths, insurance companies refusing to cover shipping, stock markets collapsing, semiconductor giants warning of shutdowns. The war, even before the first shot, is strangling China's future. And so the face-saving formulas begin. Through diplomatic backchannels, ironically routed through Moscow, China reframes the operation. Not an invasion, not an attack, just routine exercises. One by one, the warships begin to peel away. By the 48-hour mark, the Pacific belongs to America once more. U.S. submarines patrol every choke point. Fighter jets dominate the skies. Shipping companies reroute through American-controlled lanes. Insurance markets stabilize, but only under U.S. naval escort. China, after decades of naval buildup, has discovered a brutal truth. It may command the world's largest regional fleet, but global reach is something else entirely. Against America's alliances, logistics, and technology, its ambitions collapse into retreat. The message is unmistakable. The Pacific is America's ocean. But beneath the victory lies a deeper question. What happens next time? Because this war was not really fought. It was threatened, simulated, aborted. And yet, it revealed truths that will shape the century: that Taiwan's chips are the new oil, that speed is the currency of survival, and that in a world of great powers, hesitation is fatal. The future of war may not be measured in years, but in hours. And as the world watched China blink in the face of American power, one chilling question remained: what if, next time, no one blinks?